Think about it. A system that allows you to rally the power of your allies and turn dire straits into unforgettable moments. I'm talking about limit breaks. A system designed for you to pull some of the very same feats of power from your favorite games, shows, and anime. And when I say limit break, I mean it quite liberally. And I would define its definition as a powerful ability that's only usable once a certain requirement during battle is met. Usually, feats of power associated with a limit break, quote unquote, are meant to be extremely impactful and in some cases, even game-changing. On a more narrative level, they are the personification of a character's themes, a symbol of power encompassing that character's core identity, or in this case, since this is a D&D video, a given class. Special abilities like these also look really cool in any media you or I have ever seen them used in. Which is exactly why I went and made a system that allows you to utilize limit breaks. And for the most part, because why not? It's a cool way to give every player at a table the potential to have their moment during combat, to make those times where you were in some death-defying battle even more memorable. In how I've designed these limit breaks, it's that they aren't an instant win feature like you may be thinking, but rather they are created to give your party an advantage when you're down on your luck during a long battle. And with these limit breaks, you can turn the tide of a combat encounter from a potential TPK into a potential victory on your side, while making the boss music turn on for the player and not for the boss. Now, before I go into exactly what some of these limit breaks do, I'm going to discuss what some of you have already been typing or thinking, and that's why would you even want something like this? There's a couple of reasons why, but to answer that question simply, you'd want to use a system like this because it provides your players with something to look forward to in a long combat. Those of us who have been playing D&D for a really long time all understand just how long combats can get, especially mid to late game combats around level 8 and above. Giving and providing your players with a sufficient challenge can be really tough without dragging the combat out too long, or making the encounter hit fast, hit hard, and not have a lot of HP, which can leave a group feeling empty in their victory since the boss kind of died in 3 or 4 turns. You see, I'm a big fan of massive, crazy combat encounters that test my players and their ability to think on their feet. Like that time I made my players battle an undead general who used the lines of his 200 men to resurrect multiple times during the combat encounter. Yeah, that combat took them about 2 sessions and a half to finish. And the battle ended up with one player being overcome by a lich and another's having their soul obliterated and their body used as a new vessel. It was also one of their favorite combats that they've ever done, the players who died included. It's also a big reason as to why I'm here with you, because during that combat I was able to see how the system could shine. With all that being said, however, I hate how long combats can be. They can also build a type of fatigue because after a certain point, the players just kind of want to kill the boss and be done with it. That is, unless you provided an ample amount of plot within your combat to apply a type of subversive tool for storytelling. Killing the big bad evil guy is going to be the primary objective of your party or group, of course. You see, with the addition of a system like this, your players are constantly building towards a natural climax of the battle that isn't the end of the battle itself. A type of second climactic point within your combat that they're constantly walking towards a limit break, or what I've redubbed it, a resident Mytharis, because we gotta make sure that everything that we make on this channel fits into lore some way, somehow. And see, here is where the magic begins. Once your players have built up enough of the resource, or when you as a DM decide to greenlight this ability for them, the party has to then deliberate on which resident Mytharis they want to use. In my case, with my wonderful players, they're actually giving each other turns in these long combats by allowing players who haven't had the opportunity to shine and take advantage of this system to do so. To have their big moment in the spotlight doing something cool. It's incredibly kind and promotes the biggest quality that belongs at every table: teamwork. And before we get any deeper into the video, I wanted to introduce myself to some of my first time viewers here on my channels. I'm sure there will be. I'm Zag the Mythweaver, a voice actor, professional dungeon master, YouTuber, and now fledgling streamer extraordinaire. And here on YouTube, I make fun system videos like what you're watching here, or video essays like these here. And for the most part, I upload whatever interest comes to mind, or whatever I'm inspired by in the moment, or whatever you, the viewers, want to see. Outside of the limit break system you're here to see, I've created an Elden Ring inspired combat system called Battle Arts, which set out to revolutionize the mundanity of turn-to-turn combat for martial-based classes. I've also created a Jujutsu Kaisen inspired spell binding system, which allows you to sacrifice portions of your spell to increase certain aspects of other parts of your spells, and a type of drawbacks and reward type system to create some truly interesting combinations that can turn any spell into what you want it to be, and more. But with my little self-advert out of the way, let's get back to the video. So, in design, we have a system that allows for you to make more long-form combats more exciting by giving your players their unforgettable climactic moment during it. The way in which I've designed the system is it inherently encourages teamwork and cooperation, which are the core fundamental aspects of any D&D party or group, and highlighting those aspects can only really lead to a healthier table overall. Now for the next part of our video, I'm going to tell you how the system works in brief. So in lore, how this works is that basically over time, a party of people form a bond with each other. This bond goes past just being around each other's presence. It is a more magical, mystical bond that's shared between all living creatures, something that's forged over the course of dozens upon dozens of death-defying experiences, the all-encompassing feeling of fellowship. It's like how a forest has its roots all interconnected with each other. It is just like that. Your players are the trees, they are the roots of their own forest, and thus they're able to access a never before seen power. But trust you have where if you're blown away by a dragon's attack, you know your ally might leap in the way with a shield in hand to block the flames before you can even think of it. Or if you're a barbarian being peppered by magic, without a thought, understand that the mage might happily apply some type of mystic barrier to keep you alive. It's in essence the unspoken bond we all can describe as a feeling, but may have a difficult time putting them into words. That bond is turned into a force of power within my resident Mythara system, called aptly Resonance. You may be thinking, what's stopping an entire army or sufficiently large group from abusing this in any fantasy world? Well, that's because in canon, you can only access this system once you're about at level 8. You see, level 8 to me symbolizes your characters going from being basic mortals to sliding into demigodhood, as they're sure to become at later levels. It is a transition of power which is marked by a quick ramping up of the types of threats you're sure to face. Within my world setting, characters of 8th level or above only account for 0.1% of the adventuring population, not even the general population. So with this in mind, this power isn't something any character could just happen upon, but only a chosen few who meet the specifications to access it in the first place. You could even say the reason why your players can use such a power is the very reason they're the main characters of their own story. To recognize resonance as even being a thing, it would be like your characters seeing a new color. And on a more mechanical level, I've created 2 ways this system can be played and used. The first is a pull-based system, where each action, feature, and spell cast by a character generates a certain amount of points to the total pull needed to reach Resonant Mytharas. This does mean that every skill on a character's feature list comes with a certain amount of points attached to it that they would add to the pool if they were used. And to be honest, as a DM that ran it this way, it can be a lot. The maximum pool for a party is 23 times the number of each member within the party. This means a party of 4 has a pool of 92 and a party of 7 would have a pool of 161. However, to spare you guys all the number crunching that you'd have to do across several different players, their features, their spells, and this and that and the other, I just created a simplified way to do this, which basically means that somewhere between turns 7 and 9, you just give your players access to Resident Mytharas. I ended up going back on the more number crunchy way of doing this because I realized how DM intensive this system would be if I just made that the default way of using it. And also if you just kind of don't want to collectively keep track of every single feature every player is using across the board over the course of a multi-hour combat that could possibly span days to complete or multiple sessions to complete, it could just generally be a lot. It would most definitely be a little too over encumbersome for the awesome DM who just wants to give his players a certified banger moment. Now that we've discussed how you gain a Resident Mytharis, we can talk about what they do in brief for the last part of our video here. First off, with the Path of the World Tree Barbarian. Gaining the Resident Mytharis Grace of the World Tree, it grants them the ability to conjure a 120-foot tall spectral tree of primal magic which shines down rays of healing light from its canopy to passively heal all of your allies. And as you, the barbarian, become the literal backbone of your team, you pull them from the jaws of a sure defeat. To the Light Domain Cleric, which gains the Resident Mytharis Prismatic Annihilation Beam, which sounds about as deadly as it actually is. The cleric in question gathers up all the light granted to them by their deity, turns that very power into a beam of pure light which hits any creature within a 10-foot wide, 300-foot long line of your choosing, disintegrating, and yes, I said disintegrating, any creature which drops to 0 hit points when hit by this mighty beam of pure light. And this is my personal favorite Resident Mytharis out of the bunch, which is one for Rogue, the Thief subclass actually, because theirs is called Plunder Essence. You may be thinking, that doesn't sound too crazy. Wait until I tell you that I developed a list for each major creature type in D&D for the Thief Rogue to steal from. What do they steal, you might ask? Well, their essence. You see, if you're to steal the essence of a Celestial, you might grant yourself their brilliant white wings and their radiant resistance. You might also gain a little bit of extra radiant damage yourself. And you see, earlier I was talking about encompassing the essential themes of a particular class. This is what I meant. What if a thief's power to steal transcends the physical? What if they could take the metaphysical and make it their own too? The list for Plunder Essence even accounts for oozes, which allows a creature to get stuck in your gelatinous form. It even accounts for plants. Yes, plants, allowing you to heal when in sunlight and burrow beneath the ground as your dash during the transformation. As much as I could go on and on about the various limit breaks I managed to create, we're gonna go ahead and start to close out our video here. Currently, the plan is to release the entirety of the 2024 D&D Core Rulebook subclasses as Resident Mytharises. You can go and get access right now to the system, which currently features 24 of these limit breaks, with plans to release the other 24 in the coming weeks more officially. This will make a total of 48 available Resident Mytharises once everything is complete and over 30 pages of content. However, that isn't all. If this video does well, I'll go and make the subclasses listed in other D&D source books as well, like Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and Xanathar's Guide to Everything as more long-term projects for the future. And if you really liked what you saw here and want to get your hands on the system, and pretty much anything else this noggin has created, you can go ahead and head over to my Patreon, The Mythweaver's Low. And as we close out our video, I highly appreciate you guys for sticking around until the end. Make sure to like the video, comment your thoughts on a system design like this, as I do actually read and respond to most comments left on my channel. And don't also forget to subscribe if you like the content and wish to see more. With that, this is Zach the Mythweaver. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys around in the next one. And for my return viewers out there, you might be wondering where I went these past months. Basically, I just wanted to really make sure I got a system like this down before I release it to the wild, as I really care about the quality of the things that I make for you and put out there in the world. I'll try not to have a content drought last this long going forward, and I really sincerely thank you all for your patience.